really bring in. At the end of the session, we also have a test. All of the papers will be handed over. They'll brief you what is all the test about, how to do it, and how to exceed in Excel. It's not a neat exam. Nobody can tell you what you want. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Captain. I'm very grateful to the President and Board of MMA for this opportunity, and it's wonderful to be here again. It's lovely to see many familiar faces in the audience and some new ones as well. So the question for us today is, how am I intelligent? Which itself, the theme or the topic tells you that you can be intelligent in different ways. And to set context, I'm going to start by telling you a little story about two of my classmates. One of them got several gold medals during the course of the MBBS. I was an average guy. I've been a chronic bank better all my life. I've never come to the front row. And but this guy was really bright. He had several gold medals. We all used to go to him for doubts, and he would clear all that. Not the most social of people, but very, very bright, extremely intelligent. The other guy was like me, an average Joe who hung around, did a lot of things in college. He was involved in several activities and so on. But just about managed to get through all his exams and not really he never sort of gave us an impression that he was going to sort of light any fire anywhere. Now, we had a reunion some years ago. After many years, as you do, you go for your silver jubilee reunion, your 30th reunion, whatever. And when we had our reunion, it was very, very interesting to see the gold medalist doing well. He's a district medical officer somewhere in Karnataka. He has a nice job, but he's not setting any house on fire. And then this average Joe turns up in a 7 Series BMW with a flunky and various other people surrounding him. Now, in terms of just material success, okay, and of course success is a very, very funny term and we all can question what success is. But in terms of material success, who's doing well? The gold medalist or the average Joe? The average Joe is doing very well, just in terms of visible optic material success. Okay? I'm not going to sort of in any other way discuss success except this particular. The gold medalist, I would have expected him to be the professor and head of a medical college department, a known name, several books, etc. Because that was the caliber that he had demonstrated. Interestingly, that had not happened. He had got lost in the government service. I'm sure he is doing a very good job. He's a very nice guy. But at the end of the day, that potential of intelligence that we had all witnessed in college, that did not result in any conventional growth, conventional success, even in an academic way. It doesn't matter, you could have come in a Maruti 800, but if you're professor in head, you're teaching people, you're writing books, that's another kind of success. But we didn't see that kind of success which we expected in this firm. So which brings us to ask this question: what makes people optimize and reach, because the whole thing is unleashing your inner potential, right? What kind of intelligence makes you achieve your potential? Is it the gold medal capability that's going to lead to you achieving your potential, or is it something else? Okay. Now let me tell you just a little bit more about this average Joe, right? Why does he drive a 7 Series BMW? Runs a huge hospital, has a huge waiting list of people wanting surgery from him. But he will shake hands, he will talk to everyone. He referred me a patient last week. He's in Kerala. Refers me a patient last week, follows up to ask, hey, how's that patient doing, man? Can you please tell me? He's a busy guy. He really shouldn't have time to be asking about an individual patient he referred to one friend somewhere. But he does. If he sends a patient, he sends a note saying, I know this person, I want you to help this person. Please take care. Now, what is he demonstrating? What kind of intelligence is he demonstrating? Emotional intelligence and social physics, right? So in a sense, the 7 Series BMW doesn't come as a surprise because those kinds of intelligences are very important in life. Being able to connect with people, being able to make people feel connected, being able to interact with them, that pays a lot of dividends in life. So this is just one example of how just IQ, the way we conventionally assess a person's capacity, especially within the educational framework, how that may not be very relevant the moment you step out of that educational institution's framework and you start working, you start meeting people in society, how other things start to matter. I want to tell you another story. And I promise not to tell too many stories. Now, this is a nephew of mine who's dyslexic. Has great trouble getting through each year of class. We are always worrying about this kid, how he will pass, how he's going to get to the next level. Needs a lot of support, not of guidance. But that's only in school. Okay, his mom was traveling to Chennai. She was on a flight somewhere. Typical of her, she expected to be picked up, but never told any of us which flight she was taking. So I called this kid in a, great worry, and I tell him, hey, tell me which flight your mom's on. He not only told me which flight she was on, that it had taken off, and he was tracking its location. He knew where it was, and she will land at X time. ETA is this. Okay, now tell me, is this kid going to do well in life or not? He probably is going to do supremely well in life because he's extremely organized and he knows what it is to be responsible at age 16. Okay? So the point I'm trying to make therefore is that, and I think our team will emphasize this to you, that intelligence is different things. And intelligence needs to be understood very differently from the way that we have been usually trained to understand it. And therefore the question, how am I intelligent? So in today's talk, we'll talk a bit about the neuroscience of intelligence, Vivek. We'll talk about how multiple intelligences exist. This is the concept of Howard Gardner from Harvard University. We'll talk about how multiple intelligences exist and how to think about your own intelligence. We're going to get you to take a multiple intelligences test so that you become aware of what your own multiple intelligences are. And the discussion, we hope to address these through brainstorming and questions. So we're going to leave enough time to do that. So we have 2 short presentations, and I'm going to start by asking Vivek to give his first presentation. Thank you. So, good evening everyone. So, when we talk about the intelligence of the brain, so I came from totally hardcore hardware side of the intelligence, which is the hardware we have in our skull, the brain. So, what is intelligence? Everyone say, as Dr. Krishnamurthy just said, social intelligence, emotional intelligence, but what is it? Intelligence are actually. So intelligence is the ability to learn, understand and apply knowledge. And the intelligence is different from the cognition, that how well I can perceive. So if somebody pinprick me and I say, oh yeah, I perceive the pain. Can we call it as a pain intelligence that I can perceive the pain? No. It is what understanding or the education I get. So if there is a hot pan I touch, it's going to burn me. So that is the intelligence. If there is a pointed object I touch, it's going to bleed. See, that is intelligence. And there are different types of intelligence. We talk about analytical, creative, practical, and emotional. But are there more types? So that we have to wait for the Ayush's presentation. But there are the legendary psychologist Spearman. He projected there is two factors. It's a two-factor theory. It's very simple. There is a denominator which he called the G factor, as we look in the diagram, that have an influence all over all our other activities, what we can do, which can be either mechanical, which means how we move, spatial, how we navigate, numerical, how we calculate, and verbal, how we speak over the period of time. So there is some influence. But another factor is the S factor. Now S factor is also known as the specialist factor or specific abilities. Now not everyone is having all the S factor in all the domains. So some people are good in numerical and mechanical but not verbal. Some people are good at verbal and more of a spatial. So where there is a combination lies, that particular domain becomes the guiding factor for that person exhibiting a certain behavior. And it helps in problem solving, decision making and adapting to new situations. Now we have this hardware and we say every brain is same according to the structure that if we open every brain looks like same. But there are different brain areas responsible for different intelligence or the domains. For example, we talk about our frontal lobe. It is more involved in our social cognition. Parietal lobe integrates the information coming from the different areas. So one of the examples when we look, and if I say that if we close our eyes and we touch a certain object, we can able to find out whether it's a silk or a cotton without seeing. So where this intelligence comes from? So the parietal lobe recollects from our past memories. Okay, previously we have touched this. This is how it feels like. And we are integrating our senses as well as our memory recollection. Cerebellum, it performs some cognitive function and attention. Brainstem, warning system, set alarm. For example, when we go for a running and suddenly we say, no, we should stop now. Where that intelligence comes from? It comes from the brainstem that it triggers the certain chemicals in our body, in our brain and say, okay, let's stop. We should not push our body beyond this, it will damage. So again, it is all also comes part of our intelligence. So if we take one of the brightest person who we thought is the most intelligent, Einstein's brain. Is all our brain different or same? Now, Einstein's brain is actually lighter, it weighs lesser, on an average 1230 grams, where an average human brain is weigh about 1400 grams. So if we just say, oh, then the brain weighs lesser, it should be like, he should be less intelligent than us. But we also say, it's even the cerebral cortex is thinner. We always say, more grey matter, we are more intellectual. Here it is less grey matter, weighing less, but one of the property of the brain that the density of neurons. So even though his cortex is thinner, the density of neurons were more, which means he have packed more neurons into small scale and it's connected well. So then when the brain differs, what comes? The great debate, whether it's a nature versus nurture. And the fact is, genetics contribute about 50% of our intelligence with numerous genes involved. It is not, we have only one gene which we can modify and we become intelligent. No, there are several genes which are involved in producing intelligence. When I say 50%, the another 50% is from the environment, that the early childhood experiences, education and social interaction plays a crucial role. Now, what is the epigenetics is how the environment surrounds me. And there are two types. One is the environment, what we are talking about, the outside our brain. And then there is something which is inside our brain. So there are internal environment and the external environment, and how these environment can influence the gene expression, how the gene is firing, how they get activated related to intelligence. So this is like one of the very interesting study. Say a monozygotic twins, which are the maternal twins, and the same individual, when they take an intelligence test, it is like same person taking the test twice. If we just look the first two numbers, it's almost the same. Then we look dizygotic with the fraternal twins. So they only share 50% of the DNA, and the siblings, they also share the 50% of the DNA, because and there is a huge gap between, like, roughly 0.20. So if one is the perfect exact same answers, there is a 62 and 41, which means there are the adoptive parents. The environment appears to have a substantial impact on their intelligence, where they share the same genes. Now, if we look, siblings rear apart 0.24%. It's a quite significant drop. So now, though these siblings which are reared together, they are at 41% same, whereas the siblings who reared apart are just 24% same. So we know, though they have the same genetic composition, it is the environment which has influenced. Now, adoptive parents and child, they are together. Well, there is no difference in their, it is just 16% same, which means the parents have little association with the IQ of their adopted children. So again, coming back, there is genes which play a part. And unrelated children reared together, which shares zero DNA, is still they are 0.25. Still they are higher than the adopted parents and child, and almost same as siblings raised apart. So, you see that the environment do play a very significant role in changing our brain and how it works. But then we talk about changing our brain. What does this change mean? So again, coming back from the tractography, so there are neural networks. Interconnected neurons process information. No single neuron can process information. We have 86 billion neurons in our brain. Those 86 billion neurons, when fired together, process information. Higher intelligence is linked to more efficient and flexible neural connections. And synaptic plasticity, where they are linked together, they are more efficient, and the brain ability to strengthen or weaken neural connections. And this neural connection, what we talk, is guided by the gene expression, and the gene expression can be influenced by our environment. So now we see there is a link between how we express ourselves today, even in this room, or how we are standing and talking. It is because our environment, our brain is trained in a way. But when we say become more efficient, how we can become? We can't change our structure, because structure, we say even Einstein have a less weighing brain. So how we can do it? How we can make it efficient? And the efficient comes mental exercises, puzzle, reading, problem solving activities. As the captain was saying, readers are more smart. So, there are, the good research. So like for each topic, there are lots of research, but, in the paucity of time, we will just say reading and problem solving, especially the Rubik Cube. We had one of the videos from the clinic that the Rubik Cube does help improving our cognition. Physical health, regular exercise, healthy diet and adequate sleep. And continuously acquiring new knowledge and experience throughout. But there are more methods. For example, using our brain to perform our tasks in a very limited and focused attention. For example, a QEEG guided neurofeedback, where if you have seen the movie Matrix, where everything is moved with the brain, the QEEG guided neurofeedback does the same. The person don't have to move the hand to play a game. The wires are being placed, you see over there, and all the animation will be moving. The point you get distracted, the animation stops. So you are playing a game with just your brain, and if you can play a game, it can be a focus, it can be attention, anxiety, behavioral, and you are learning that behavior, which in a longer term change our brain in turn. But then we say, can we measure this efficiency? In manufacturing, we can measure efficiency. There is this Six Sigma and all those things come. But how we can measure efficiency in the brain? As Kalyan puts, that synchronicity. We say, occurrence of meaningful coincidences that seems to have no cause. That is a coincidence or a casual. That unity is diversity. Today I walked 5 kilometers in the morning, I feel very fresh. I took a very good business decision. Maybe I would have taken without even walking. It's just synchronicity. But with new advances, we can look that doing reading, exercising, meditation, yoga, focusing on our intellect, feeding the brain what it wants. So over here, if we see, there are more delta. The person feels sleepy. And the red are the highly abnormal, normal and abnormally low, like how our brain firing. And when we do these activities, and you see, it is on the right hand side that those areas tends to become more normal. And it's just the indication what we can record in today's labs. So I'll just leave with a thought that when we are in 21st century and we say we can biohack our brain and how we can enhance or work on those, so do we just need a thinking hat? Or it is a thinking cap versus a thinking zap. So there are the devices of non-invasive brain stimulation. Well, because I work from the hardware side of the brain, and there are ways where we can make the brain more efficient. And this is the future. Using the non-TDCS, which is a transcranial direct current stimulation. And it not only make you smarter, but it's also make you devise write more poems, the verb generation. There are augmenting the ideation fluency, how best I can speak in a public forum, how creative I can become. And there are studies which I found that one of the courses, Bachelor of Fine Arts in UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles, getting into that course is much tougher than getting into the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. So those students from there are already highly gifted, use the TDCS for 2 days, and their creativity jumps by 4.8% in just 2 days. And that's the future what we are looking for. So this is the hardware, but I will call Ayushi to talk about the different intelligences, and I will say thank you for your attention.
Am I audible? Yeah. So thank you, Vivek, for that very quick whistle-stop tour of the brain and intelligence. Before Ayushi starts, I want to tell you a little story based on his plasticity point. So if you've been to London, you have seen the black cabs, the hansom cabs, HANSOM cabs that they are called. Now they're very expensive. They're about £50,000 to buy. And they have existed for centuries, literally. Only thing they are now motorized and they're made only by one company for the last several years. Now the hansom cab, to drive it, you need to get a very special license. And in the days before Google Maps, in order to get that license, you have to memorize the London map in your heads. So the test will go, for example, how will you go from Smith Street in W6 to, say, German Street in N1? And you should know in your head every one-way, every roundabout, every traffic light, etc., how you're going to go from here to here. You are expected to memorize this. And that act of memorization was called the knowledge. So if you wanted to be a London cabbie driving a hansom cab, you had to undergo this 2-year knowledge. So not only do you pay £50,000 to buy the cab, you have to undergo this 2-year test called the knowledge. So the university where I trained, University College London, our Institute of Cognitive Neuroscience, did a very interesting study where they measured the size of the part of your brain that is responsible for memory before people entered this 2-year training, the knowledge. And then they measured it serially on using MRI until you completed the knowledge. And guess what? The hippocampus actually grew significantly in size. Okay. So why I'm telling you the story is to say that what group captain said is absolutely right, that it's very good to read, it's very good to learn. And I think what Vivek is trying to say is that the brain really is also a use it or lose it organ. The more you employ your brain, the more you actually will increase those connections that he's talking about. So that's just the neuroscience of it. There is proof that intelligence is not just genetic and endowed, it is environmental, and it's also partly acquired through repeated practice. So this is something I want everyone to just